My name is Amelia, and I've always considered myself frugal, practical, and led a rational life. Everyone says I'm great at saving, always cautious with every dollar I earn. But who would have thought that my rationality would end up making me the one to bear the financial burden for my family for the past 5 years? Every month, I quietly transferred $2,500, 0 cents, to keep their house from being foreclosed. $1 after another, it went into their bank account, while I was left with long hours of work, never allowing myself to enjoy anything. In my eyes, they were family, and I thought I was doing the right thing. But today, sitting in my apartment, staring at the foreclosure notice from the bank, I can't help but wonder, am I the biggest fool alive? Amelia, where are you going? My sister Laura's voice came through the line. She was sitting in her bright kitchen, waving the cocktail she'd just made. I could hear the music from her gathering, the laughter of everyone around. You should really join us on this trip, Amelia. Bali, don't you think life's too short? When will you ever take time for yourself? I took a sip of water, trying to suppress the frustration bubbling inside me. It's okay, sis. I've got a few work projects to handle. I'm good. I forced a smile, even though deep down I just wanted to shout. Laura laughed, while I mentally calculated how many overtime hours I had to work just to keep their house from being taken away. Oh, you can't keep living like this, my mom's voice chimed in, as though she was sitting right next to me. She adjusted her new sunglasses and looked at her reflection in the window. Amelia, you can't just keep working all the time. When will you live a little? The whole family laughed and poked fun at me. They didn't know that every month I had been silently transferring $2,500, 0 cents, into their bank account to pay the mortgage. They didn't know that while they were out shopping, traveling, and living lavishly, I was working myself to the bone to help them keep their house. I never complained, never said a word. And now, looking at what I've done, I can feel the anger rising inside me. I could hear their laughter from the other end of the line. And Laura continued, you know, she just likes staying at home and working. Probably doesn't have much fun. All of them, even my dad, the ones who should have understood me best, thought of me as the boring one, the one who just worked all the time. And there I was, sitting quietly in the corner of that call, silently enduring their coldness. Hours later, when my mom called to talk about some home repairs, I couldn't stop thinking about the foreclosure notices I found in my dad's desk drawer. Papers with their signatures, bank notices demanding immediate payment, and loans they had hidden from me. This wasn't the first time I had discovered this. But this time, it felt like something inside me broke. I had been deceived. They had hidden everything from me, and I had unknowingly been carrying the financial weight of the family, while they spent recklessly. I hung up the phone and looked at the foreclosure notice sitting on my desk. They knew. They had always known. Every month I transferred money to them, they spent it on unnecessary things, and I, foolishly, thought I was helping my family. The unanswered questions kept swirling in my mind. Why did I let them do this? Why did I let my family take advantage of my kindness all these years? Was I destroying myself for a family that had used me like an ATM? After that call, I felt like everything within me had changed. All the sacrifices, the efforts that went unappreciated, suddenly became painfully clear. But what hurt the most wasn't the money that had gone into that house. It was how my family always viewed me as nothing more than a financial tool. An ATM fueled by kindness. A week later, the family dinner where I had planned to confront them arrived. But before I could face the truth, I had to endure a barrage of mocking comments from them. That evening, when I arrived at my parents' house, I realized they were still living in their own little world. My mother, as usual, was flaunting her new handbag and the expensive fur coat she had just found at a luxury store. You know, Amelia, you never spend anything on yourself. I told you, life's short, why not enjoy it? She said while admiring herself in the mirror. pulling her skirt up to check the perfection of her outfit. I clenched my fists and nodded, feeling like I was being suffocated. But as soon as I entered the living room, my father's gaze made me uncomfortable. He was sitting on the couch, flipping through the newspaper, as usual. But I knew he was waiting for me to say something about the money I had been sending to them for the past 5 years. My sister Laura, who always took pride in her travels, continued to mock me. She just buries herself in work and never thinks about herself. I really don't understand. Amelia, don't you ever think about taking a break? She kept laughing, while I stood there, hands gripping my purse, saying nothing. My brother Tanner couldn't miss the chance to tease me, as always. He had always lived a lavish lifestyle, spending money on expensive hobbies without a care in the world. Hey Amelia, do you know where I can get a cheap car? I'm looking for an SUV for a trip. I heard there's a 2018 used one, but could you help me out a little? He said while chewing on his bread, his eyes challenging me. At that moment, I wanted to rush at him and tell him everything I had done these past years, but I stayed silent, knowing that he never cared about what I had done. The dinner turned into a rehearsal of how my family disrespects me. While I sat there, listening to all their mocking and sarcastic remarks, I couldn't stop thinking about the price I had paid over the years. They lived in luxury, vacations, expensive shopping trips, while I still worked hard to pay off debts they never wanted to face. I began to wonder if they realized just how much they had taken advantage of me. But as I pushed my chair back and stood up to leave the table, my father unexpectedly called me back. Amelia, you're leaving? Eat a little more, darling. We don't want you to go without anything. His words rang out, but inside I felt like something shattered. He didn't see that I had sacrificed everything I had, devoted my life to worrying about this family, only to be seen as the boring and uninteresting one. At night, I couldn't sleep. Their mocking words kept echoing in my mind, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was so tired of always being the one behind the scenes, always the one saving everything but never being acknowledged. I remembered a time when my father told me, "Maybe living frugally isn't fun." Those words felt like a knife cutting into my heart. And then, in a quiet moment that night, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't live like this anymore. I had had enough. The next day, I decided I would no longer stay silent. That family dinner would be the moment I revealed the truth. I would no longer be their ATM. I would not allow myself to continue being taken advantage of. Everything seemed to have gone too far, but I couldn't stop. My silence had become a cage, and I had patiently waited for the moment I would break free. But the truth always has a way of finding those ready to face it. One afternoon, while cleaning out the storage room, I accidentally discovered something that made my heart stop for a beat. It was an old box that my father had hidden in the dark corner of the storage room, a place I never paid much attention to. I opened the box, and inside were old papers, worn with the passage of time. These weren't the kind of papers a child would want to find in their parents' house. They were foreclosure notices, warning letters from the bank, and loans that my parents had signed for, all under my brother Max's name. I held the papers in my hand, my heart tightening. I had suspected for a long time that something wasn't right, but I couldn't believe my family had been hiding this much from me. I didn't realize that all these years, while I was sending money to their account, they had huge mortgage loans that I never knew about. All those months I quietly contributed to that house, thinking I was saving them from bankruptcy, I was actually helping them cover up debts they couldn't pay. Max, my brother, the one who lived a life of luxury, never in need of anything, was the one behind all these loans. He had used the family home as collateral for borrowing money, while I had been living in poverty, unaware that I was being exploited. The feeling I had at that moment was indescribable. I felt betrayed, like I had been led on for all these years. For the first time in my life, I felt the injustice within my own family. I couldn't believe my parents had allowed Max to do this without telling me. It felt like they had used my trust, my love, as a free ticket to cover their debts. At that moment, I realized that all my sacrifices had been in vain. Every month I worried, sweating it out working, cutting down my expenses, all just to keep their house from being foreclosed. While they continued to live a lavish life I was never allowed to be a part of. They never once asked me if I was okay, if I was tired, or if I needed help. They just kept taking, never giving anything back. I began to wonder if they had ever truly considered me a part of the family, or if I was just a tool to help them maintain their extravagant lifestyle. As I continued to flip through the papers, I saw that these loans weren't just regular financial issues. They had hidden everything from me. Max had signed for 3 large loans, all related to the house I still thought was the family's, but now it had become his collateral. The real financial situation of my family wasn't the luxury gifts they bought for themselves. It was a mountain of debt waiting to collapse. That's when I understood. They had never needed me for kindness or love, but because I was the only one who could help them maintain the perfect facade. I had done everything without ever questioning them. And now, as I looked at the undeniable evidence in my hands, I realized that I had been deceived. The anger continued to rise within me, but it wasn't just anger. It was disappointment. I had been too easily swayed by promises, too quick to overlook all the signs of deceit. I had let myself become a pawn in their game. But from today on, I would no longer be that way. I wouldn't continue to live in their shadow. I stood up, holding the papers, and decided I wouldn't let them sit in that box for another second. I had to do something. Had to put an end to the life I had built on lies and exploitation. The truth was clear, and now it was time for me to face it. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had discovered. The anger, the disappointment, and the feeling of betrayal were overwhelming. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let my family take advantage of me anymore. They had exploited my love and kindness for all these years, and it was time for me to expose everything. It was time for me to face the truth and speak up about everything I had silently endured. I couldn't sleep last night. The image of the dark room with the box full of loan papers, foreclosures, and hidden secrets kept running through my mind. I couldn't let things go on like this anymore. If I didn't do something, I would continue to be their puppet, paying the price for the lies they built. I decided that tonight at the family dinner, I would confront them all. I wouldn't stay silent any longer. I wouldn't keep everything inside for another minute. It was time for them to realize that I wasn't the easy target they once thought. They thought they could keep pushing me into the role of the family savior, but now, I would show them what they had done. When I arrived at the house, my parents were busy preparing dinner. My mother was in the kitchen, unaware of the seriousness of what was about to happen. My father, as usual, was sitting on the couch watching TV, not paying attention to me. But today I didn't want to stay quiet anymore. I walked straight to the dining table, where everyone was gathering. My sister Laura and my brother Max were already there, chatting happily, unaware of the change in me. Everything seemed normal, but I could feel that something was different in the air. Looking at my parents, Max and Laura, I felt like an outsider. All those years of taking care of them, sacrificing for them, now felt empty. My mother was still bragging about the luxurious trips my sister and I never got to join, while I could only keep silent and endure. Max continued talking about all the promising investment projects, which I knew were nothing but scams. I couldn't stand it anymore. "Hey everyone," I began, my voice calm but firm. "I have something important to say." The whole family turned to look at me, their attention now on me. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. It felt like I was being engulfed by a storm, but I couldn't turn back now. I had to do this. For the past 5 years I've quietly paid the mortgage for this house. Every month, I've sent $2,500, 0 cents, to keep your home from being taken away. I did it thinking I was helping my family. But now I realize I've just been a sheep being used. My entire family was shocked. My mother frowned, Max stopped talking, and my father looked at me, his face confused. But I didn't stop. I kept going. The truth is, I just found some papers in the storage room. The mortgages that Mom and Dad signed. All of them were under Max's name. The massive debts I never knew about. You've been hiding everything from me, and I've unknowingly become the one saving you. Max stood up, his face angry. What? What are you talking about? He tried to stay calm, but I could hear the worry in his voice. I don't need to explain further, I said, opening my bag and pulling out a series of documents I had prepared. These are the foreclosure notices. These are the loan papers you've hidden from me. I've worked hard to pay these off. But you've never treated me like family. You've used me. My mother started stammering. Amelia, you don't understand. You can't do this to your family. She reached for my hand as if trying to stop me. But I didn't move. Family? Yes, Mom. But family isn't about treating me as a financial tool. Family isn't about laughing at my savings while you waste money on luxuries. The room went silent. Max stared at me with an angry look, but I could see the hint of worry in his eyes. My mother started crying, but not because of remorse, but because of the loss. She felt everything slipping through her fingers. You've exploited me long enough, I continued. And now, none of you can blame me anymore. I've done enough, and I won't keep helping you. Max sneered, turning to my father. She really wants to kick us out of the house? He couldn't accept the truth. No, I replied, my voice steady. I will never let myself continue doing this. But now, it's time for you to take care of yourselves. You've exploited me for too long. I won't stay silent anymore. The atmosphere in the dining room was heavy, as if a storm was about to break. Everyone sat in silence, no one daring to speak. I had made up my mind that today would be the day when everything had to end. And I knew that this confrontation, painful as it was, would be the first step in freeing myself from my family's manipulation. As I stood up and opened my purse, the curious eyes of my parents, my sister Laura, and my brother Max were all focused on me. They didn't understand that they were about to face the truth they had tried so hard to hide. I pulled out a stack of papers and began to lay the documents on the table. These were copies of foreclosure notices, the loans Max had taken, all laid out clearly. These are the payments I've made for this house over the past 5 years, I started, my voice calm but firm. Every month, I've sent you $2,500, 0 cents. And while I saved every penny to keep your house from being lost, you went on vacations, renovated the house, and went shopping. I looked at Max. He was sitting there, his face frozen, unable to say a word. I knew he couldn't deny the truth. I continued, opening the file further and pointing to some travel expenses I had found on my bank accounts. These are the payments from March, when I transferred money to you to pay the debts. And here's the trip to Cancun that Laura took during the same period, I said, pointing to a receipt I had printed from social media. And, Mom, I also have the bills from the kitchen renovation you did in April. My whole family fell silent. My mom stopped laughing. Her face grew tense. She turned to look at my dad, but no one spoke. Max stood up and began pacing the room. I could feel the anxiety in his every step. You can't do this to your family, Amelia. Max started, trying to stay calm. I know you work hard, but this can't be as simple as you're making it. Yes, I know I've worked hard, but you and the whole family have exploited me for too long. Do you think I'm worth nothing but giving you money? I couldn't hold back the anger anymore. This house, do you think it would still be standing without me? You took out all the mortgages on it without me knowing. Even Dad let you do this. My dad, the one I always turned to for protection, was now sitting in silence. My mom, with her eyes filled with worry, could only look down at the table, unable to face me. Now I understand, I continued, feeling an unusual sense of peace as these words came out of my mouth. I'm not sending you money anymore. I won't help you maintain a life you don't deserve." At this, Laura looked up at me with a defiant glare. "Do you really think you can do this? We're family. You can't just leave us hanging like this. You can't let us go bankrupt." "So what do you think I am?" I shot back, staring straight into her eyes. "You've lived a lavish life, while I've only known how to work and keep quiet. You've made me sacrifice things that I deserve. But no, I won't do that anymore. I'm not going to help you live this life anymore." Max stared at me for a moment, then lowered his voice. "I think she's really gone mad." He tried to downplay it, but I couldn't bear the truth anymore. "This is the truth, Max. And you all are going to face it," I said. "I'm not the fool anymore. I won't keep paying for your lives." I took out a copy of the loans that Max had signed under his name. These are the 3 loans Max took. He used our house as collateral to get the money. And all of this, I've been paying for. I've been paying for him, and all of you every month. Did you know that?" My mother couldn't speak anymore. She sat silently, her eyes seeming to search for forgiveness. But I was no longer someone who would forgive so easily. I knew that it was time to end this. It was time for me to not only live for myself, but also to stand up and protect myself from the people I once loved the most. Because the truth is never wrong, no matter how painful it may be. Family, I concluded. Yes, we are family, but family is not about exploiting each other. And today, I won't be the one saving anymore. I won't continue being a tool for you to live your lavish life. You will have to take care of yourselves." My whole family sat there, silent. That dinner, everything changed forever. Few days after the justice dinner, the atmosphere in my family was still tense, as if it hadn't dissipated at all. Everyone kept calling, texting, trying to explain themselves and reconnect with me, but I had cut off contact. Everything was too clear now. There was no reason for me to continue helping those who had exploited me for so many years. The first thing I noticed was the change in their attitude. Max, my brother, who had never been one to admit defeat, had become discouraged. The investments he used to boast about, the amazing opportunities he wanted me to join, were now nothing but disappointment. I knew he had lost a lot of money from the risky investments I had warned him about. Yesterday, I overheard a conversation between him and a friend, where he admitted that he might have to face bankruptcy, as all the loans and projects he had poured money into had no future. Jayla, my sister, wasn't doing any better. She had just lost a major sponsorship contract from a company she had partnered with for years. Her partners called to cancel the contract after information about my family was leaked online. Although Jayla had always flaunted her lavish life, she could no longer hide the fact that her income depended on maintaining a perfect image on social media. After I publicly revealed the truth about my family relying on money I had paid, the sponsor decided to cut ties with her. Travel projects, advertising contracts, everything came crashing down in just a few days. My mother began to show her disappointment, not only because of what I had done, but also because she felt like she was losing what she had hoped for in life. She cried a lot in the past days, saying that I had hurt the family, but I didn't feel guilty. Sometimes, I even wonder if I was wrong to have helped them for so long. I had spent so much time and effort doing things they never appreciated, only to be discarded like a tool when they had everything they needed. The only surprising thing was my father. He had stayed silent all week, not trying to reach out to me nor saying anything to my mother about how to mend the cracks in the family. Although he didn't speak out against what I had done, I could feel a change in the way he looked at me. No longer was there pity or hope that I would come back to help. Instead, it was as if he acknowledged he had been wrong, the whole family had been wrong. But this wouldn't change what had happened. In the following days, I began to feel a strange sense of relief. The feeling of freedom. I no longer had to worry about what my family would do when I wasn't there to keep them safe. Everything was now in their hands, and they had to figure it out. I didn't have to stay up late working extra hours to pay their debts anymore. No more midnight calls or text messages asking for money for ridiculous reasons. I also noticed that, with each passing day, my life started to feel more meaningful. I no longer felt pressured to live according to others' expectations. No longer did I feel the need to prove to them that I was responsible, that I was trustworthy. Now I only lived for myself, for the things I wanted to do, without sacrificing my own happiness for the family. Although I had severed all financial ties with my family, I couldn't stop thinking about them. But I knew that if I continued to prolong this situation, I would never be able to live for myself. I had learned a valuable lesson. Family can love each other, but that doesn't mean we have to sacrifice everything just to keep them in our protective arms. Sometimes, the greatest love is letting go and allowing them to figure things out for themselves. But in the past 3 years, I had taken the first step in my journey to independence. And no matter what happens, I would never go back. Because I had decided that I would never allow myself to continue being the person I was in the past. Someone who was exploited and manipulated. Now, I am the one creating my own life. And that is the freedom I'd been seeking for so long. I lifted my head high and looked ahead. Life is not always easy, but I know I will never go backward again. A few weeks after the justice dinner, I realized that I was standing at a significant crossroads in my life. No longer just the daughter who lived for the family, but now I had to rebuild myself. I had paid too much for things I should never have paid for. I had loved, sacrificed, and placed my trust in people who never appreciated me. But now, everything had changed. That day, when I looked in the mirror, I no longer saw the patient, enduring girl. I saw a strong, decisive woman. Someone who was no longer afraid to face the truth about my family. And most importantly, I saw someone standing firm on their own feet, no longer pressured by the people who had exploited me. I decided not to return to those days anymore. I didn't want to live in a world of dependency and manipulation, a world of late-night calls, unreasonable requests for money that I kept accepting. I decided to step out of the darkness and find a home of my own, a place where I could rebuild my life. Finding a home wasn't easy. I didn't have enough money to buy a luxurious house immediately. But I started with small steps. I began researching the real estate market, attending financial counseling sessions, and making serious savings plans. It was a long process, but with each step, I felt stronger, more confident in my abilities. One day, I found a small, charming house on the outskirts of the city. It wasn't a large, extravagant house, but it had an airy space and a small garden I had always dreamed of. That house was where I could start anew, a place where I could live freely without worrying about debts or requests from my family. I decided to put down a deposit right away. This decision marked a major turning point in my life. When I signed the contract for the house, I felt a deep change within myself. This wasn't just a house. It was a symbol of freedom. It was a place where I could breathe easily, a place where I could step away from the financial and emotional chaos that my family had created. I started imagining the days ahead when I could do the things I loved, travel, attend the courses I had always dreamed of, and most of all, I no longer had to worry about the debts I had carried for so many years. A week after I moved into the new house, I received a call from Deacon. He was the friend who had helped me so much during the difficult months. He was the only one in my family, besides Violet, who truly understood my pain and encouraged me to step out of that spiral. "Are you okay?" Deacon asked, his voice soft but with some concern. "I'm fine," I replied, feeling a sense of relief as I said those words. "I've moved into the new house, and I'm starting to rebuild my life." "That's amazing," he laughed. "I knew you could do it. You're stronger than you think." I thanked Deacon and realized that, besides finding the new house, I had discovered an even greater change within myself. I was no longer the weak girl who only aimed to please others. I was now an independent woman, capable of protecting myself and choosing to live life my way. Soon after, I started attending workshops on investment and personal finance. I had decided not just to survive through the difficult days, but also to take control of my finances. I wanted to understand more about how investments worked, how to build a retirement fund, and how to never be dependent on anyone again. Once again, my life had changed. I was no longer the fool my family had once looked down upon. I was no longer the only one responsible for everything. Now, I stood strong on my own feet, making my own decisions and protecting myself. This awakening not only changed me, but also brought me an unprecedented sense of freedom. Freedom was not just about no longer carrying my family's debts, but living a life not trying to please anyone. I could do what I wanted, no longer having to sacrifice myself for those who didn't deserve it. I looked back on the road I had traveled and finally, I smiled. The pain, the betrayal, all of it had shaped a stronger person, someone ready to live true to themselves. Now, I was truly free. Amelia's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of protecting oneself in toxic family relationships. Through challenges and unappreciated sacrifices, Amelia learned that independence and self-respect are the most crucial elements in building a peaceful and happy life. Life isn't always easy, but when you face the truth and embrace change, you will find the freedom and strength to live authentically. What do you think about Amelia's journey? Have you ever faced a similar situation in your own family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more inspiring stories about family life and the journey to freedom.